This is the Michael Brighton Show. Hi everyone, welcome back to the show. And today I am joined with Clem Chambers, who is a lifelong serial entrepreneur. He started when he was very young and he's put together an app that helps us lift our mood. So, Clem, thanks so much for joining me today.
It's great to be on the show, Michael. And it's been a long journey. It was interesting to know that you started out in business when you were 16, and I started out when I was 17. And now I'm old. I like to say I started when I was a child, but I'm sure there's plenty of 17-year-olds that would disagree with that description. But anyway, 16, 17 is pretty young. And, you will have experienced the ups and downs, roller coaster rides that being an entrepreneur is all about because, you are on your own. I mean, you are in that big sea on your own, in your own little rowboat. And there's really, there's a few people that can advise, not that many of them will be much help. And you're on your own. And, that is a very harsh reality. And, a lot of people these days are sold the dream of, starting your own business, being an entrepreneur. It's great. It's great. It's high status. It's glitzy, have a Rolex, Oyster, it's going to be great. You'll be able to have a Lambo. It's all brilliant. It's all great. All you got to do is wish for it. All you got to do is push on and be great and great and great and great. And the reality of it is, it's more like being in a boxing match with somebody that's actually a little bit better than you are, and he's beating the hell out of you. And all right, you're fighting and you're punching back, and you hope to win, and you can win, but nonetheless, it's no walk in the park. And a lot of people are out there probably not realizing because they've been given this dream that it's all unicorns and you've only got to come up with an idea and a venture capitalist will give you millions and you can wear a hoodie and it's going to be great and let's go to Florida and party. And it's very not like that. So a lot of people that go into it suddenly hit this wall of stress and this wall of an emotional roller coaster, this gritty reality. I can't remember who said it. I think it might have even been Musk who said starting a business is like eating glass. And for a lot of people, most of us, it is exactly like that. So now I'm an old man and, restarting some new projects. And I wouldn't say I was a serial entrepreneur. I've done various things over the years, but it's been a lot of years. So it's not like it's one every 10 minutes. And one of the ideas that stuck with me was, now I'm getting old, I'm getting these ideas of actually doing something that will make me money, potentially, maybe lose me money, that will be exciting to do, that will be fun, hopefully make a huge pile of money, but actually give something back. Now, I'm not one of these people that say, we've got to give something back and, all that stuff. I do all those nice things, but I don't see that as a core purpose. But it's nice to actually have a business idea and it actually does not just a good product that people want, but actually does some good, has a double benefit. And that idea was, having been through, so many of these, startup situations of which feels like a personal war, is something, an app that would lift the mood, not make you happy necessarily, but lift your mood. And I was aware of a lot of research over the years into little things that can lift your mood, not turn you from, terribly, terribly sad to terribly, terribly happy, but actually just put a smile on your face or cheer you up a little bit. Because ultimately, most of us would say you can't have too much of that. So I've released a product called HappyHacks, which is really to the fact that over the 40 years of being an entrepreneur and taking the blows, that I could have certainly done with a product that I could look at and it would cheer me up a little bit, or maybe cheer me up a lot, or maybe cheer me up a little bit every day, which would grow to being a lot more cheerful than I would otherwise be. So in a sense, I've created a product which I am customer one. Okay. And that's always my recommendation to anybody in a business is you be the customer one of your product. So if you're not obsessed with your hairdo, don't become a barber, don't become a hairdresser. If you're not obsessed with food, don't become a chef. If you are obsessed with food, you might think about being a chef. If you are obsessed with vegetables, you might think about becoming a market gardener. So, or a greengrocer. Because if that is where your passion lies, then you'll be much better at it. So as a customer one, that's a great place to start in any project, that you are the main customer. So when you've got your little team together, or meet you and your mate or whatever, or you are all on your own, and you want a tool that does something, I don't know, shows you all the Timex watches from the beginning of time. You actually want to know that, and then you will make a very good tool. So for me, over the years, I've always thought, oh no, wouldn't it be good if I could, I just, something's just gone wrong and I feel like biting that programmer's head off. Wouldn't it be better? Wouldn't it be great if I could just go onto an app and it would cheer me up a little bit. And so that was the basic start of this project. And it's now on the App Store. It's totally free, although you can buy extras on it. And I like it. I am customer one. It sends me notifications now and again, and it makes me smile, which is not actually a functionality that I designed it to do, but it does it. And so that is, something that I've reached a stage now where my projects are about not only making money, not only about making a product, not only about being fun to do, but also is a give back. I'm getting paid to do something that's good for everybody. So that is quite a pleasant change, because before, all the projects, when I was a kid, I started out in computer games. And, computer games people have fun. People love them. I was invited to a celebration of one of my computer games in Portugal a few months ago, which is apparently a legend in Portugal. I didn't know that until they reached out to me, and I didn't sell one copy in Portugal. But those were the days when you didn't have to buy your computer games; you could pirate them. And I think everybody in Portugal pirated this particular game that I did. But anyway, they all enjoyed it, and 40 years later, it's legendary. Although I didn't know to this year about that, which was a bit of a shock. But nonetheless, that's just entertainment. It's not like you're not saving the world, or you're not, doing something deeper than that. And that's where I am now, and I'm working with Leeds University on a project which is environmental chemistry project. So that's also given me a lot of pleasure. So now I've gone from just somebody that is a creator that likes to create things to when I've reached a certain age, approaching a certain destination, I'm thinking of things in terms of doing something that actually is, a big hairy deal in addition to being a business and a set of products.
I wonder if people that actually want to start a business, whether they're having the same sort of thought process as you or not, how can people prepare for this journey? Because it's not easy. It's not something that you should be taking lightly. How can someone prepare for this idea of starting their own business?
Um, I think it's best not to prepare. I mean, you can take it both ways. I mean, if you're going to go into a jungle, you want the right kit. Okay. And you want the right boots, and you want the right rucksack, and you want the right socks, and you need the hammock so you don't get eaten by the ants and all that good stuff. But mainly in things like starting a business, it's all about getting going, all about finding the way in. Yeah. And, over my many decades of starting businesses, which have basically been bootstrapped, is finding something where there's absolutely a vacuum. And you go, oh, nobody's done that. I mean, nobody's done a little app where you can do things and it will cheer you up. It's not a thing. So I look for something where there's a hole in the market. I mean, really, it's, as I said to start off, it's about just getting going. I mean, you might have this great idea to make, marble chess sets. And then before you know it, you're making something completely different because you made a call and met a person and spoke to them, and they made a suggestion that you meet someone else, and you spoke to them, and their girlfriend was canoeing down rivers, and you like canoes, and you thought, wouldn't it be good to have something on the back of a canoe, blah, blah, and before you know it, you're in the canoe business. So, you've got to cover a lot of ground to find the opportunities, and then you really kind of need to find an opportunity that you can afford to start into, right? So you're looking for that bootstrap. So I've found that the best thing to do is just to, go around, just cover ground and look for opportunities which you can actually take advantage of with the resources that you've got, and take it from there and see where it leads. So I've always been very organic with the way that I've done things, and let the natural energy of the situation tell me whether I'm in the right place or not. And if you are doing a project with some people, and they don't reply in email, they don't get back to you, they're oh yeah, well, no, but no, no, it's not going to work, is it? And if you go um, and you meet a group of people doing something that could be a business, and they're all doing it for nothing, and they're all excited, and they're all running around, waving their arms about and jumping out of their socks. Well, there's energy there, and that's something that you should follow, because if you can add the business end to that kind of activity, you've got yourself a business, haven't you? So I found that you will find these pockets, these magic pockets. If you patrol around looking for them, you will stumble across a pocket of hyper energy, and it's probably not monetized. And it's a load of people doing something that they love. I mean, it might, I mean, there's an infinite examples that you could pull out of nowhere. It could be a group. I remember, and I didn't do anything about this because there was a law in the way. I went to Japan many years ago, and they had these robot football teams, and they were playing football with robots. And I thought these robots were brilliant. I thought the idea was fantastic. I thought I could bring that to Europe, but it turned out all the robots were full of lead, and you couldn't ship lead around. So it was one of those things that had a kind of missing piece. Actually, I could have shipped those robots, and nobody would have known they got lead in them, really. But the Japanese were such rule book followers, were so like, look at every single possible rule in the world, and make sure that you apply it in the most rigorous manner, which of course can stop most things dead if you've got an idea. But there was an idea, and they're all energetic, and robot football players. I bet you in some time, in the not so distant future, that will be a thing. But that's an example of an area where everybody was totally keen, everybody was excited, and it was exciting and could have been a business and wasn't. But if you find those pockets of enthusiasm, then you are possibly onto a winner there. And so that's to follow that, because I always used to say, and everybody used to hate me for it and look at me strange, was that employ people that would do the job for nothing. Yeah, and people thought that meant that I was a rapacious capitalist that wanted to pay people nothing. But nothing could be further from the truth. What it meant was, if your person that you hired is so loving the job that he's doing that he would do it for nothing, that's the right person to hire for the job. The person who's got, wants to get this wonderful job that a lot of people would do for nothing, doesn't like the job. I mean, that's going to not work out, is it? So the best possible place to start is in businesses, or things that can become businesses, where people would do the work for nothing. And then you can work out the money later. So that is how I've always, and not always, but quite often, got off the ground with ideas. Because, like computer games, it was an exploding area where everybody was writing computer games at home as a hobby, right? So they were doing it for nothing. And I just waved a flag and said, send me your games, I might publish them. And, off we went in 1982, 1983, one of the, pioneers of that strange world. And then it was massively multiplayer games, where there was a whole community of people who were totally obsessed with that. And they were basically working for nothing. I mean, more than basically working for nothing. They were working for nothing. Loads of people were knocking themselves out to volunteer to work for nothing. And, that was an environment that turned into the huge industry that we know now, that I was again a pioneer of that. So those things are out there, but you won't find them, by being a legend in your own bedroom. You have to get out, and you have to go hunting, and you have to, when you find them, find a equitable way to take that from being a thing that everybody is excited by and turn it into a business, which is, that is the trick that, we all do. And sometimes it works, and quite often it doesn't.
Get the impression that you must be able to handle, whether it's frustration, the idea of working with different people that all have different timelines and the way things would like to work. gives me the impression, Clem, that being able to, whether it's slow progress, handling frustrations, different decision makers, you're spending a lot of time, whether it's communicating with people, negotiating with people, potentially compromising. And it just seems like you need to be the kind of person that can handle whether it's slow progress, no progress, disappointments, that sort of thing. How would you help people handle all of that?
Well, the old answer is you've just got to handle it. It's just you just have to. And of course, that doesn't really help if you find that hard. And I think it's well, one of the ways that a lot of entrepreneurs handle it is by having more than one iron in the fire. So they're trying to build two or three or four businesses at once. And that means they can switch focus to things that are making progress. And progress is slow. And I must say, you're saying, oh, I spend a lot of time communicating with people. I spend even more time trying to communicate with people because, these days, people's desire to communicate seems to have dropped quite a lot. Now, there's the sort of false communication that social media brings, which is, you feel you're interacting with somebody, but in fact, you're not. All the liking and the loving and the emojis and all that stuff. So, actually, what I find, I can write 10 emails and I'll be lucky to get three replies. So, and it's not that email isn't a great communication channel. It's that people's COVID hasn't helped. I think a lot of people have lost, quite a lot of practice in communication because of COVID. And also the channels have been fragmented and being turned into, not very good channels to communicate. So, for example, I mean, if I'm doing something complicated, it's very difficult to do it with email, for example. It's much easier to have a phone call or a Skype because the amount of information you can get through on an email is actually quite restricted in terms of actually having a physical meeting with somebody. And there's all this information is now being quite badly fragmented by the different channels. I was and still am not a great fan of the mobile platform over a computer platform because a computer platform can transmit so much more information and is such a better tool for various jobs that a mobile phone is not a great tool for those jobs. And therefore, it's like having a bad tool if you're putting up shelves. It'd take you longer. The shelves won't be as good, and you'll probably, hit your thumb. So I think that communication is incredibly important. And that is one of the things that people just have to, try their very, very best to maintain of that as much of that as possible, because it's kind of the currency of business.
Do you find that very often it can come down to their own mental state in a way? Like if they're struggling mentally or they're unsure of themselves, that sort of thing, that can make a difference?
Confidence is totally important. Confidence is totally, totally important. And, I think that even if you're feeling low, if you've got confidence, you're not in such a poor shape than if you were feeling unconfident. I mean, confidence is very, very important, and lacking confidence is must be. I mean, I've never really experienced that handicap effectively. So anything people can do to boost their confidence in any shape or form, the better. I mean, and a lot of confidence can be built actually from physical things. So, being well dressed, for example, you know, doing exercise and therefore being in shape. Not that I am. But there's a lot of actual actions you can take to boost confidence, or rather, if people don't have confidence, I mean, and when I say that, because a lot of people that appear very confident are not very confident. They just are able to appear confident. And then, we're soon disappearing into the morass of, self-help and psychology, which is anybody's guess really in my book. But, you can, if you think you had low confidence, you can look at yourself and go, how can I improve it? So I think if people can get into the how can I do better mindset all the time, rather than get into the trap of constantly supporting their own self-image, which is probably distorted, then that helps. You mean, I do think that a lot of people are held back because they're not flexible. Flexibility is incredibly important in business. And, it's one of the things, it's one of the pillars of intelligence, actually. And you could say, well, I was born of a certain IQ. I couldn't be any smarter. But actually, if you are of a certain level of flexibility in your mind, in your way that you look upon things, and that the way that you're prepared to judge things, and you're much more flexible about that, or you try very hard to increase your flexibility, you try very hard to look at things differently, if you try very hard to examine things that you think you know, in fact, you're sure you know, I'm absolutely certain of this, examine them, I increase your flexibility, you'll be a lot smarter. And flexibility, I believe, and I've got no scientific studies to back this up. I believe the core pillar of intelligence is mental flexibility. So, and humans are very bad at that. Very, very, very bad at it. It's why people punch you when you prove them wrong, right? Because it hurts them so badly to not be right about something. It's physically painful, and they get very, very upset. If you can, dial that down, that desire to be always right, if you can dial that back in your own mind, then that will give you a lot of advantage over a lot of people who are totally inflexible. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, a lot of these podcasts are what, as a business person and at the top of an organization, get, which is people asking you for advice, your advice on tap. But people come up to somebody like me, and I know a lot of people in my position get the same thing, and they come up and they say, why is it ABC? Because you seem to know, and I'm clueless. Effectively, that's the dynamic. And you go, well, it's XYZ. And they go, no, it can't be that. No, it can't be that. And you see that that's a paradox, right? And if you are a person that can't be flexible about what you think, you're flexible enough to ask a question to get an answer about something you don't know about. But when somebody tells you who does know about it, tells you the answer, you're not flexible enough to consider it to be right. Then obviously you're going to find it quite difficult in the world where most of us are at best 52% right out of 100.
Flexibility is actually quite fascinating thing. I never quite heard it put the way that you mentioned it. Explain a little bit in terms of how someone could be a bit more mentally flexible, because it sounds like questioning things, try not to be too sure of your assumptions, that sort of thing. So how can we encourage that? And then I wonder, as a second question to that, is how do you then balance it with being confident and being somewhat assertive if you're also encouraged to question things as well?
Well, I don't think, I mean, there's plenty of people out there who are assertive that absolutely don't know anything. I mean, being assertive doesn't, it doesn't mean you're right. And asserting something in a clear manner doesn't necessarily believe that you're, 100% right. I mean, it's I had an old friend that when I used to make, claims, particularly, I mean, I ran a financial information platform for 25 years. And so a lot of what I've done over the time is call the markets and, say which way shares are going to go and stuff like that. And I would go to him, oh, XY companies, I think that's going to go up a lot this year. And he would say, from your mouth to God's ear, meaning, yeah, right, well, maybe, but you better tell the world that. So I think, you can have an opinion, but you don't have to believe that you're right. I mean, that's science, right? I mean, if you look back at science, science has been wrong ever since the day it was invented, and it probably still is. Why would most things about science be wrong 100 years ago and not all be right now? And I don't know, scientists would tell you that science is right. It's just more right than it was, right? And if you've got an opinion, it's not a law. I have what I'm telling you now, Michael, is the law. No, it's just an opinion. And hopefully it'll be a bit more than, a 50-50 on things. And if you accept your own fallibility, I think it's much easier to be right. I mean, if you wanted to try to be more flexible, write down 10 things you really believe in, and then go on to Google or onto ChatGPT and ask them for the opposite opinion, and you'll get one, and it will probably be pretty damn good. Yeah. I mean, the world's history is full of religions slaughtering each other on the basis that they're completely right. And, they can't all be right. In fact, probably hardly any of them are even half right. Yeah. So I don't think you have to hold yourself. In fact, it's a psychological syndrome. It's called the right man syndrome, right? And they're the people that can't be wrong. And even when they're wrong, they can't be wrong. And even when they're beaten, no, they're not beaten. We've all met those people, right? Yeah. And the gamblers that lose all their money, but they never lose at gambling. The world is full of right men and women, or there's a lot of them out there, right? And that attitude will make you fail. Because if you can't stop, oh, I'm nearly crashed into that car. If you can't stop, no, I've got the right of way here, bang, right? If you can't stop and say, I'm wrong, or maybe not even right, you're certainly in a very, very, very weak position. So I think you can, if you were to say, I could be more flexible and that would help me, you can work on that. And if you can say, well, like, I am very flexible. I'm totally flexible. I am as flexible as the Indian rubber man. Well, that's probably not going to be something you're going to get good at.
I've found as well that if you speak to people that are, I guess, they're able to consider things or they're able to shift the way that they think, it's almost like every time they do that, they're more and more likely to be right, or at least righter than when they started.
Well, if you see, I used to do quite a lot of maths because of financial stuff. And you could look at any opinion, including your own, as 50-50. You're 50% likely to be right, you're 50% likely to be wrong. So when somebody says it's going to rain tomorrow, you could say, well, there's a chance at random of, it raining tomorrow is a 35% chance because every tomorrow is a 35% chance. So if you think that anything that you believe, anything that's said to you is a 50-50 as a starting place, it's not a bad way to think about everything. Yeah, because we tend to think everything we're told is true, 100%, or it's going to happen is 100%. And we experience something very different from that. But it's very hard to change people. People are very, very, very not malleable. Our personalities are very, very hard to change. And normally the only thing that changes them is a very, very difficult experience. So, whether it is actually possible for somebody to wake up in the morning with the sun shining through their bedroom window, yeah, I'm feeling happy to go, I'm going to change my personality today. I don't know. But I'm for sure certain that flexibility is the hidden variable in intelligence. Because, most people would say, well, intelligence is just about how big your brain is or how well you developed and your nutrition and your genetics. And, it's kind of, it's nature, not nurture. But actually, I think there's a lot of nurture there. And if you peel it back, if you take away the size of a guy's, cerebellum, flexibility is really, really important. Because if you think about it, we've all met highly intelligent people, inverted commas, that are totally stupid, do stupid things, incredibly stupid. And then you meet people that you might say are, let's just say, use the word thick, okay? And who are incredibly successful. Yeah. So it's like stupid isn't the opposite of intelligent. Yeah. So in fact, stupid is the inability to work out what the consequences of what you're doing are going to be, right? Which is not the same as intelligence, which is the ability to solve problems. Yeah. They're not the opposite of each other. So if you then say, well, is there more to intelligence than, the size of your brain and your ability to solve problems? What would that be? Well, one of the key things to solve problems is the ability to look at them from different angles, not the ability to, do some clever calculation, but the ability to go, hold on a minute. Why have you got a collar on your shirt? Well, I don't know. Why have I got a collar on my shirt? I never even thought about having a collar on my shirt. Well, yeah, what is it doing there? And the world is full of stuff like that. Why does somebody do that? Or why don't they do this? And of course, that flexibility, all of a sudden, before you know it, you're building a shirt without a collar. Oh, it's called a t-shirt, and you're in the textile business.
It sounds like you need to have an ability to just kind of almost go with the flow or roll with it, I guess, in speech marks. Just to be able to go with things and go with the flow and to move with the tide. That seems like a very important skill.
Well, it's funny because I was sat in an Indian restaurant a few weeks ago, and there was a guy had a T-shirt, and on it there was a phrase like T-shirts have, and it was a phrase that I thought I'd come up with to tell myself 30 years ago when I'd had a bit of a bad run, and that was, and it was weird, in 1992, I said to myself, right, everything's gone, Pete Tong, as they would say in England. Everything's going wrong. I've got to, do something about this. What should I do? And the thing that came into my mind was embrace chaos. And this T-shirt had on the back of it, embrace chaos. And I thought, oh, that's weird. So, there is an element of actually embracing the thing that you're not enjoying. So I've had many very, very, very successful entrepreneur friends, and they have a attitude to things which is quite, to me, quite almost horrifying. They love trouble. They love it. I mean, you can only have to look at Donald Trump to see somebody who's like that. They love it. They thrive on it. They embrace trouble. They bring it on themselves in many ways, yeah. And that is their business model, to go into something where there's trouble or difficulties, where there are resources, and sort them all out. And that's their business model. You can imagine like buildings are that thing. Renovating an old building is a pile of trouble, right? And you don't have to be a genius to be able to do up a building, and you'll make a lot of money. But oh boy, you've got to have a appetite for trouble, right? So one way that I try to do, not very successfully, but it has worked for me in the past, is to actually say, this thing I don't like, I'm going to do a lot more of it. I'm going to attack it. I'm going to, rather than run away or try to avoid it, I'm going to pile into it. It's like a cold swimming pool, right? Are you going to dip your toe in and then your ankle and then your leg and then your knee, or you just jump in? Yeah. And embracing a difficult situation can actually be a solution to, running away from it, or letting it get the better of you, to actually get stuck in. And getting stuck in, you just have to do, a lot of people would do it automatically, right? That's their personality. But you can actually say to yourself, look yourself in the mirror and go, let's go, let's get stuck in. Let's turn this around. Let's have a go. I'm going to enjoy this roller coaster. Yeah. I'm gonna make the most of it. Yeah, because it might be the only time I'm in this situation ever in my whole life. And it actually will be an experience. So that is one way of getting over that cold swimming pool water. Just jump in. And I think for anybody who wants to start a business, that is what you want to do. Just jump in and get going, and then, keep your brain switched on and don't believe anything, and just roll with it. As you say, rolling with it is very, very important, and not taking it too seriously, and not seeing it as a judge of your being right or wrong or anything, but just as an opportunity to learn and to make some money and to get out of the the world that you're in, which may not be ideal, or to have some fun and enjoy yourself. Because you should actually be doing something, if you can add, because most people get into business because they want to make more money, okay, and that is a very obvious motivation. But if you can plug into that, things that you enjoy and things that you're good at, then your chances of success get much, much higher.
How would you encourage people to make these important decisions then? Because it seems like your ability to solve problems, also things like mitigating the stress that we spoke about earlier, trying to handle some of the mental, I guess, yo-yos that people can experience. How do you put yourself in that decision-making position? It seems like some decisions want to be emotional, other decisions less so. How do we navigate this?
Well, I mean, it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. And I think the idea that's put across out there, and it's quite fashionable at the moment, that everybody should be thinking about, making a financial success of their life, and it's all going to be brilliant, da 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 da. it's not necessarily true. People can't necessarily do it because they're just not cut out for that. But I mean, there's people don't take advice, right? So it's like the first thing you have to do is you have to either want to do it, enjoy doing it, have a very pressing need in addition to do it, or, well, that's it. That's it. I mean, really, the reason that most people don't start businesses and the reason that most people don't succeed is they're not cut out for it. It's really not easy. And in a sense, one of the things behind HappyHacks is that, it's just like a little bit of it's a little box of confectionery to raise the mood for people who, even in the life that they're living, is hard enough. And, you can't have too many smiles. So it isn't necessarily cut out for everybody. But if you wanted to do it, then just do it. And it's, yeah, don't hesitate. Don't take it too seriously, in as much as don't take it too seriously internally. Do your best. You can't do any more. And if you do your best, I think you will achieve. But on the other hand, it's not cut out for everybody. And a lot of people are happy being, for example, teachers, are happy being other activities which are, not policemen, soldiers, firemen. They're really happy. And I think ultimately, if what you do makes you happy, you're 95% of the way where you need to be anyway. So, running a business isn't necessarily going to make you happy. It isn't necessarily going to make you rich. But if it does make you happy, it will probably make you rich. So I think that's probably a better way of looking at it. It's not like reading and writing. You don't have to. Well, in fact, even people who are bad at reading and writing, it doesn't actually impact their life necessarily. So it's not. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to emulate Elon Musk. You don't have to be a success in that dimension. But if you are, that's what you want to go and do, then, I think that the thing is, get on with it, get out there, get on with it, and do what you enjoy and what you're good at, and then it will be a lot easier.
Do you have any advice for the younger generation? So you've been doing this for a long time. Kids might want to start a business, that sort of thing. What advice do you have for people that want to start a business? Maybe they're of a certain age. Let's try to lift up the younger generations.
Well, I think the younger generation would, trouble is with being young, you don't normally come with a lot of cynicism. And because of that, things that you wouldn't imagine could happen. And that's very demotivating. Okay. So, it's if you were to go onto YouTube and look at all the starting up business videos, and you try to start up a business and you failed, or you didn't get on very well, or people, you just about got by, you'd think that you were an idiot because everyone else seems to be making billions and trillions and driving around in Lambos and all that good stuff. And it's not like that. It's not like that. It's very, 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 very difficult. And it takes a very, very long time. So I think if you come prepared with the realities of what's going to happen, then it won't be so difficult. Okay. Because you won't be always thinking, what am I doing wrong? I didn't make a 7-figure income in 3 months. Oh, I published my AI book on Amazon and nobody bought it. They said everybody would buy it and I would be having $10,000 a month. And I've done more. I've done 5 more AI books. I've put them on Amazon and I haven't sold one. Why is that? Oh, well, Amazon knows it's AI and therefore it's going to delist you. Oh, I would never have thought of that. So, a preparation, being prepared to be disappointed is a good place to start. And don't believe all these. Well, first of all, there's this thing that I call the lottery ticket myth. You see these people and they're all zillionaires and they started this thing in college and now they're, a billionaire and all that. That they're lottery winners. Now, it's not to say they're not brilliant. It's not to say they aren't geniuses. It's not to say any of that. It's to say that they have, in effect, been in the right place at the right time, with the right idea, with the right people around them, and it all adds up to, getting all the magic numbers on the lottery ticket. Okay. And good luck to them. But the thing is, it's unlikely that you will win the lottery. Well, certainly not that easily anyway. So you will be in the main bell curve of people striving, and you will have to really strive. However, it will be great for you. It'll be great for your character. It'll be great for your mind. It'll be great for your experience. It'll be great for your knowledge. And struggling through that dynamic, and it will be a huge struggle. So be prepared that it will be a huge struggle, and it will seem normal. And you won't be, despairing that you're the only one that's not making great progress, because it won't be like that. When I started in computer games, I was 17, 18, and I started out, and there was all these companies, and they were all throwing money left and right. And every month they'd go bust. And it would be me and another 20 companies. 6 months later, there'd be me and three of them, and there'd be another 20 companies doing the same thing. And 3 months later, most of them would have gone bust too. So, but they looked great. They looked great. They drove Ferraris and Lambos, one of them. And when they went to a show, they had a big show stand, with, you name it, that was on it. And they took advertising all over the place. They looked great. There was lots of them, they had flash offices. Boom, they went bust. So it took me, well, it didn't take me that long to work out that looking successful doesn't necessarily make you successful or mean that you're going to survive. Faking it until you make it is a very poor strategy, particularly if it costs you money to fake it. And, if you are real and you strive, even through the ups and downs, ultimately you'll get somewhere, but it will be a tough old journey. And going back to HappyHacks, that's kind of the reason I made this thing, because I think it's nice to have an application that can put a smile on your face. And it comes out, there was a guy called Dale Carnegie. There was two Carnegies, the steel man, Andrew Carnegie, and Dale Carnegie, who wrote books he wrote the famous self-help book, How to Make Friends and Influence People. But he also wrote a book about how to cheer yourself up. And one of the things in there, which I found, which is kind of pivotal to this idea, was that if you give money to a beggar, it will cheer you up. It doesn't matter whether the beggars are fake. It doesn't matter whether the beggar is, needs more than you can give him. It doesn't matter anything apart from the fact that if you give money to charity, it doesn't matter how much, it will cheer you up. And you think, well, that's weird. Really? So I tried it out, and it absolutely does. You give £1 to even a fake beggar that's been sat on the same piece of cardboard for the last 20 years as one near where I lived has. Yeah. Even though that's their job, even though they're probably not deserving, even though they probably live in a nice house, and even though they're on social security, when you give them £1, I almost said 50p there, but that sounded a bit mean, didn't it? You give them £1, it cheers you up. I mean, oh, that's weird. So it is a mechanical way of cheering yourself up a little bit. Yeah. So we researched into all the things that can cheer you up a little bit and put them into an app. So you can get, 6 little things that you can do today that will cheer you up every day. And, for the people who are out there grinding away at business, they probably could do with a little bit of a pickup. There it is. So, it's a business, and it's not just playing burst the yellow bubbles on your phone to pass the time. Actually is a little benefit. So, that idea comes out of the fact that I spent 45 years, in the trenches of business and in startups. And, it's something that even today, yesterday I got an alert, and even the alert put a smile on my face. I'm customer one, you see. So, there you are. For the younger generation, you see, I think the younger generation will do it anyway, right? I mean, you only have to go onto YouTube to see all these young creators. And yeah, a load of them are faking it, and a load of them will stop doing it because they won't, achieve the dream that they've been sold. But they're out there doing it, and there are a lot that are succeeding. And I don't think there's any problem with any generation, and not this generation. I mean, obviously they've had a little bit of a difficult moment being young and then being locked down for a couple of years in an important part of their developmental life. But outside of that, I think only old people say, "Oh, this generation is not like our generation," you know. Oh no, they do this and oh they do that. Oh no. I mean, I was that generation they said that about. Oh, I'm from the generation of the punk rockers. I would have been a punk if I had wanted purple hair. And so, every generation is as good as the next, and they will be out there generating, huge new businesses like the last one did, like the Zuckerbergs did, and the generation before them, and my generation, and the generation before me of people like Gates.
I wonder if we could kind of round things up a little bit in terms of how increasing your mood can help entrepreneurs, business owners make decisions. And then I know that you're quite, I guess, passionate about being able to fail or fall forward, to being able to always move forward. So how can people do that?
Well, again, I think it's a lot to do with attitude. Okay. And when I use the phrase fail forward or fall uphill, don't fall downhill. Yeah. So you're on this hill, you're trying to go up it. If you fall uphill, you don't fall very far, right? You fall about a foot and then your hands are in the grass. But if you're pointing downhill and you fall head over heels and you're going to roll right down to the bottom of the hill. So to an extent, it's about your frame of mind. And a positive frame of mind, it can't be beat. It absolutely can't be beat. And it does help to have your mood picked up to have a positive frame of mind. And the idea of abundance thinking is a very, very strong one. But you have to really, really focus on those ideas to bring it home to you, because naturally there's all sorts of negative emotions that people undergo, whether they're entrepreneurs or not. I mean, life is full of negative emotions and people like to wallow in them, frankly. I mean, if you counted up the next 30 pop songs that came out, how many of them would be happy pop songs? And how many of them would be about violence or being depressed or about being angry or about negative emotions? Probably one out of that 10 or 20 would be actually about being happy. Yeah, if you look back at all the great songs of all time, most of them are happy songs. Yeah. So in the short term, we are very interested in negative emotions. Switch on the television. How much happiness will you get from that? Yeah. It would be murder and terrible news and just a hose pipe of negativity. And negativity will keep you down. Negativity will stop you getting out there. Negativity, I mean, people, like I said, not a lot of people's advice is any good, because if you ask people's advice about doing something, they'll tell you why it won't work. Yeah. So positivity is incredibly important. And if you are not unhappy, it's quite a lot easier to be positive. So I think anything that can contribute to a positive mindset, and you see, these are mechanical things. They're not they're not chemical. They're not anything at all. They're just mechanical little tricks that have been scientifically proven to lift people's mood. And lift, who wouldn't who wouldn't have their mood lifted right now? Doesn't matter how smiley you might be, just a little bit. Lift your mood just a little bit. There's not one person listening to this podcast that wouldn't say, "Yeah, I'll have my mood lifted." And full well you do your best work when you're positive. And so it can't be better than that, can it?
That is a fantastic way to finish with, Clem. It's been an absolute blast. I've really enjoyed this. The stories were amazing, and there'll be plenty of things that we can all take away. So, for those that want to download the app, for those the ones that enter your world a little bit, how can people connect with you?
Well, I think my email is out there quite a lot. So you can, if anybody wants to email me, they can. HappyHacks is on the App Store. So I'm afraid we haven't done a Google version yet. Android, there you go. But it's up there on the App Store. It's free. You can pay $1 and then you can put your favorite photographs on the app. So if you ever want to look at your favorite photograph, you can have a look at it. But apart from that, it's all free. And there it is. And hope people will enjoy using it and get out of it what I've been getting out of it.
Thanks so much for being a guest on the show. Those that are listening, feel free to subscribe, share the show, tell others, and also leave a review wherever you are listening into your podcasts. Clem, it's been great, and I look forward to keeping in touch. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Cheers, Michael.